I'm very excited to be standing outside my local stationery shop. This is Reid Stationers here in Calgary, and I'm also glad I've got the opportunity to talk with Trish, one of the employees at Reid Stationers, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the shop. So join me today as we walk through the store, and I get to show you where it all began for me. Tell me a little bit about Reid's. How long has it been operating? And I've noticed that there's two parts to it. There's a party part and a stationery part.
There is.
Yeah.
Reid's has been around for 39 years. They are celebrating their 40th anniversary next year in 2024. So that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It was started by John and Maura Reid back in 1984.
Okay.
Stationery has always kind of been a part of Mrs. Reid's life, because her father, James Lewis, started Lewis Stationers. So it's kind of in their blood a little bit. A lot of people might not remember Lewis Stationers, but they'll remember the building. The building is now the Lewis Lofts here in Calgary. That was where they operated out of. So it was big business back then, that large building. Yeah, okay. Back in 1933.
1930. Okay, wow.
The 30s,
Holy cow.
So Maura Reid's father started Lewis Stationers.
Wow.
Back then. So it's always been in her blood. And then she started it with her husband, John Reid.
Right.
And now her children operate the business.
Wow.
So it's kind of progressed over the years.
So talking about Reid's, it's got a long history, a long heritage here in Calgary. What do you think sets Reid's apart from a lot of other stationery stores out there? What makes it special for you, and maybe for what you think from a business perspective?
What makes it special is they are a family-run business, still to this day. I think that's pretty unique and special. You're not going into a big corporate place, and we do have staff that is really passionate about the product that we sell. They take interest in it, they use it. I think our customers can come in and talk to us and ask questions, or just want to express their excitement for stationery and using pens.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what sets us apart, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I really like about stationery shops and mom and pop shops is that very family oriented feel. Regardless of how stationery shops look different from one to another, you can tell just walking into Reid's that there's such a connection, like with you, Trish, and just your knowledge base that you have here. And I can tell you're really passionate about getting people interested in analog instruments. And is Reid Stationers one of the earliest stationery stores in Calgary? Do you know? Was it the first one? Lewis Stationers, perhaps even in 1930?
Yeah, I think Lewis Stationers was.
Right.
I don't know. You'd have to confirm that with the children, but Reid Stationers has been around a long time, right?
Yeah.
The business has kind of evolved. They've always had the party greeting cards section. They do balloons and gifts and novelties and puzzles and games and all sorts of things up there. That has evolved as well. And then the stationery side of things has also evolved. Back in the day, it used to be like a lot of office stuff, like file folders and banker's boxes and that sort of stuff.
Kind of like a Staples type of thing?
A little bit in that respect.
Right.
A lot of typewriter ribbons, like
old
school stuff, right?
Okay.
I remember when I first started here, there was a wall of typewriter ribbons. So that was kind of their business back then. They had a lot of corporate businesses that used to kind of order from them as well. And then that kind of went by the wayside when Staples came into play.
Right.
Staples kind of took away a lot of that business, which is unfortunate for a small business. And then also the pen side of things. The pen, the writing instrument division kind of grew And it was just a small little area back in the day, and now it's become this giant thing.
Yeah.
Which is great because a lot of people still like to use pens. You know,
Right.
customers will come in and be like, you know, why do people still use pens? I didn't know you were around. But people use pens every day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Students, teachers, lawyers, doctors. There's all sorts of people that still use pens.
And I feel like there's a shift in modernity with just so much digital access and digital media and digital instruments, I would say, that analog tools and instruments and implements, they're not going away. They're having quite the resurgence right now. Would you say that's true? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The digital world, you don't make that connection with anybody. Coming into Reid's, I think you can talk to somebody about your interest.
Yeah.
And somebody will listen to you and share that interest with you. So that human connection is there.
Yeah.
And it's very much alive, for sure.
So there's the party side of things. So gifts, balloons, and you said this was right from the get-go, this was the idea of combining, I guess, party implements and party novelties with stationery.
Yeah.
Oddly
Always.
enough.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd and strange, but that also grew over
Right.
time too. The original business was across the street in one of the little houses.
Okay.
About a block and a half down.
No way.
And it was just a small little store.
Yeah.
This store also has grown. This whole stationery section was added on as
Right.
well. I don't know what year it was added on, but it was an add-on. So it's definitely grown.
Yeah. So when people walk in, they see the party side first if they're coming off 17th Avenue.
Correct.
And they navigate to the back. And here's where largely what I see is the first thing that hits you in the store is pens, right? Like it's just in your face.
Yeah.
So fountain pens, this is something that you were talking about Staples and the big box stationery stores out there. Fountain pens is what Reid's is really largely focused on. Would that be accurate?
To a respect.
To a respect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say it's kind of equally with ballpoints, roller balls, fountain pens, pencils. The whole thing has evolved. But fountain pens largely, a lot of our customers come in for fountain pens. And the whole ink side of things as well, that has also grown.
Right.
You used to be able to get 6 or 8 colors, and now there's like hundreds of different colors that you can get.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool side of things that way too. But yeah, definitely fountain pens. And you can get fountain pens for as little as $7 and as much as $5,000.
Right.
So there's a whole cross range of different products and, fitting the bill for your certain hobby or interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me, being what I would consider a recent aficionado or enthusiast of fountain pens. You had mentioned that Reid's has been around for 40 years. Is there a large fountain pen community out here, would you say, in Calgary or Alberta, Western Canada, I would say even?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely in Calgary and surrounding area.
Mm-hmm.
We have customers that, drive in from Lethbridge or Red Deer,
Really?
even Edmonton. So there's all sorts. We're starting to see a lot more people from Saskatchewan, even while they're visiting Calgary, come into the store. So definitely out there.
And what's interesting about, I guess, Calgary specifically, it's in a unique climate, right? So having been to the East Coast and the West Coast and the accessibility from foreign imports, a lot easier. And then you get to somewhere in Calgary, which is more or less kind of smack dab in the middle of Canada, prospectively, of course. What's it like shipping things into Calgary, especially with some of the brutal winters that we get around here, especially inks and things like that?
Definitely. Bottled ink, it takes a real big hit in those cold winter months. A lot of our distributors have stopped shipping during those winter months because of breakage.
Right.
It's just the ink will freeze, it'll break and cause a real mess. So they've made that decision, and it's a loss on their part, it's a loss on our part. So they decided to just stop shipping in those months. So you have to be a little bit forward thinking in planning your number of bottles, your colors.
Right.
So when we're out of a bottle during some of those months, sorry. But it does definitely impact us for sure.
Right.
And freight costs too to bring stuff in. Not a lot of people think about that.
Yeah.
Ink is heavy, weighty. Freight is a factor for
Right.
sure.
And then what I found about Calgary in particular, writing with fountain pens here. My pens dry out a lot faster no matter how well sealed they are.
Yes.
Would that be pretty accurate?
Pretty safe to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
absolutely. We also do see a lot of, just with some of the resin pens and the banding
Right.
on some of the caps may become loose over time, just because the glues that are used maybe in Italy don't really adhere as well in Calgary because of the dry climate.
Right.
It becomes loose and you'll have to kind of re-epoxy them. But definitely fountain pens, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It does depend on the paper you're using too. Really.
Fair enough. Are you a fountain pen user yourself? And
I dabble in it. I'm not a strict user of them, but my favorite is Lamy. The Lamy Safari. That's my go-to.
That's your
always
go-to? Yeah.
Back to it for sure. But over the years, I have an appreciation for some of the really expensive ones. There's such an art to them. There's such a beauty
Right.
in some of the work that these manufacturers are doing. The day-to-day is the good old Safari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I first started coming to Reid's about a decade ago. It's hard to believe. Wow.
Yeah.
And you talked about the growth in terms of just expanding offerings. I've seen a lot more Japanese product offerings in addition to the European.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a thought process about expanding that continuously moving forward? Things like Midori and expanding that lineup. Obviously, you got the Traveler's Notebook, which is really cool. And you had the Traveler's Caravan a couple years ago.
Yeah, yes, that was really fun and kind of new to us because we didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
But people are asking for it again, so that is out there to our Canadian distributor to
Right.
maybe have that or host that again. We have grown that quite extensively. It's become quite a staple here for sure. Any of the Japanese papers I'm finding they just far exceed all of the others for use,
Right.
for fountain pen users. And I hope people will want to try it, give it a try and use it. And, some of the old standards, the Rhodia, the like term, those are all really good as well. But
Yeah.
Japanese stuff has really come on. The pens as well, Platinum, Pilot, all of those are starting to really come on with popularity, with people kind of discovering them, finding out about them. Not so much the standards anymore.
Right.
So it's kind of growing
expanding,
across
yeah.
the board. Yeah.
That's wonderful. In terms of you personally, Trish, what's your favorite thing about the store? What do you like to do when you come in and you've got the place to yourself? Like, what do you like to gravitate towards?
When I come in, oh my goodness, I'm mostly focused on work, right?
Yeah.
But just being surrounded by pens, maybe I don't have that personal collection, but just being here in the store, picking up the pens and using them, it's always fun. My favorite thing about working here is probably the customers. As you know, Frank, you've been coming here for 10 years, you said. So just establishing those relationships and seeing familiar faces all the time is really special for me.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoy my customers.
We enjoy you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the other unique thing about Calgary here, for those in YouTube world who might not know, is we've got the Calgary Stampede, which is 10 days of chaotic cowboy fun. How is that for Reid's? And in terms of new customers and diversity, and obviously the whole Western Canadian cowboy mentality that gets thrown into all of that as well.
I think Reid's for a lot of out-of-towners is a destination point. People would, anybody who takes interest in, records or stamp collecting, they're going to seek out in different cities where they want to go. And I think Reid's is one of those places that people will seek out. To be honest, in the July months when Stampede is on, we don't get a ton of traffic through here. It kind of slows off for us a little bit because it's summer months, people are away. And 17th Ave as a whole has changed over the years.
Right.
It's a lot of bars and restaurants, and there's not a lot of retail spots.
Right.
So I think we're a lot of a destination point, but we do have a lot of tourists walking by and coming in and discovering us as well.
Right.
A lot of people will come and experience the front part of the store, the party section, the gifts, the novelties, and then kind of meander back to the stationery side of things and be like, be surprised by what they find back here.
Right.
So.
That's fascinating. And in terms of, I suppose over the course of a year or so, I'm surprised to hear July and August are a little bit quieter. Which kind of makes sense now that I think about it.
Yeah.
As we're talking through this. What are your busiest times of the year then for Reeds?
Coming now into the fall months. Back to school and people getting their organizers and planners, even for business clientele. And then moving into the Christmas months, obviously.
Right.
That's kind of our big November, December, big months. January always seems to be pretty strong for us, believe it or not. With more so in the writing instruments, people getting money for Christmas, and they want to spend it on something that they love. Filing, reorganizing your life. It's a new year starting.
Resolutions, New Year's resolutions, and
Totally.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of people come in for file folders and pens, everything that they need to carry on for their year.
One of the things that people may not know about Reeds is that you guys do special orders. Mm-hmm. So if you are looking for a product, chances are if we chat with you, Trish, or somebody else in the store, and it's not in stock or on the floor, we can talk to you and get it on order.
Yeah, for sure. That's big. That's a big business for us, in my opinion, because you can't, as a retailer, have everything on hand at all times. So if there is something specific that you're looking for, definitely reach out. We'll tell you whether we can get it or not. It may not be the quickest, but we can always help you. And we appreciate people reaching out. In this day and age, you could probably get something fairly quickly, but we appreciate the support for a local small family business. And we strive to help as many people as we can.
The other thing that I think largely out of COVID was the presence of an online store, which is brand new for Reeds and expanding in that world. What can you tell us about the online store that Reeds has?
Yeah, it is definitely new to us, 2 years now, and we're expanding and growing that as much as we can. But it is a little slower for us because we are doing it all ourselves. We don't have this big social media side of things and group that takes over and does it for us. We do it ourselves, down to the pictures and the write-ups. Everything is done by us, so we take a lot of pride in that. It came out of COVID for sure.
Right.
When COVID hit, we closed down for a month and a half, and we just found that a lot of people were reaching out and wanting certain things during that time. So a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of texts back and forth. So we were like, this might be a good opportunity for us to get going and start on something like this.
And you're continuing to expand it and build on it. And,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. We're trying to add more and more products all the time. So we obviously can't have everything that we have in store on the website, but we definitely are growing it.
And is it, with the online store, obviously that allows you to be even more broader in terms of the market that you get accessibility to. Mm-hmm. Are you finding that there's a lot of out of Alberta, out of Calgary requests and shipments as well?
Definitely. We are a little bit more organic in our website and our growth, but we are seeing a lot from Ontario and as far as like Nova Scotia. There's a few US destinations, and I think it'll, as more and more people find out about us, I think that will definitely carry on.
What do you think the future of Reeds will look like? 5 years, 10 years? What's your best guess, Trish?
Oh my goodness. I think just more of this, more of the same with, we like to discover new things, new products. Customer suggestions are always welcomed. If we can get it and we think it, will do well for us, we'll bring it in. We'll try it, give it a shot. But I think, just more of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the community out there in terms of stationery and advice for people getting into exploring analog instruments and analog tools? My
advice is just buy what you love.
Yeah.
Right? If you are coming in, talk to us. We have a lot of people that work here that really enjoy what they do and want to help you get into it. trying new things is always kind of fun. You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on pens. And I think maybe some people are intimidated when they come into the store.
Right.
They think that they have to spend that dollar value to get something good that they'll want to use, but you don't. There's lots of inexpensive, good quality product that kind of will give you that joy and that satisfaction of writing. And then just coming down to the area, I think a lot of Calgarians are intimidated by 17th Ave in a way.
Right.
Because of the busyness and the hectic area. Parking is another thing. So I do want to let people know that we do have this little parking lot in the back of the store,
right.
which is helpful. You can access it by either street and down the alley to get to us. I think that's really beneficial. And yeah, we appreciate the support, right? Small independent stores are a dying breed, really. So we appreciate people coming down.
You mentioned parking in the back. Where can people find Reid's along 17th Avenue between
6th and 7th Street, between 6th and 7th Street, right on 17th Ave, north side of 17th Ave, across from Western Canada High School. It's a big landmark, so people will know that. And yeah.
Hours being?
Tuesday through Saturday, 10 till 5.
Okay.
Online website, reidstationers.com. Check us out.
Sounds good. Thanks. It's funny, the intimidation factor. One of the first few times I visited Reid's, I walked into the back door and started looking at pens in the Mont Blanc area.
Yeah.
Loved looking at what I was seeing there. And then I think I asked somebody about the price, and of course it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and immediately had a bit of a heart attack. And thankfully that person walked me to the other part of the store. It's like, maybe this fits in with your budget. So yes, I think there's, it's so important to stress to people out there that analog instruments don't need to be hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. I think one of my first pens, aside from the gift from my wife, was a $50 pen, and that was perfect for a number of years. So
I know
it's so cool.
It's so great to get into it. Even we see young people getting into fountain pen use. That mom and dad may want to introduce their children to it, and there's $30 pens, $6 pens. Like there's so many different writing tools that you can be using and expose your children to as well. Get into, or as an adult. I mean, you don't have to spend the dollar to get something of quality.
Yeah. For those, as you mentioned, we're heading into the Christmas season basically right now, I guess, September through December here, and it's a mad sprint. If people are looking to get their buys in, sooner the better in terms of getting into the shop? I
always say sooner the better. Yeah. And if you can't find what you're looking for or what you want, we can get it for you. It may be a little bit of a wait, but still, I always say sooner the better.
Right.
Grasp onto it now. Some of the items too we're still seeing with supply, not necessarily supply chain, it's just a little bit harder to access.
Right.
Some of the, I don't know if it's a production production thing, loss of staff. I'm not really sure if that plays into things, but sometimes it's a bit of a wait to get certain items. So definitely sooner the better. Okay. Always.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned about the supply chain. COVID really affected everything. Mm-hmm. Things slowed down, and it was hard to get certain inks and stuff like that. Has that more or less bounced back? It
has leveled off to some respect. There are still the few brands that are struggling a little bit with getting all of their product back. Manufacturing, it could be a manufacturing thing. Right. They never come out to tell you straight up what is happening. It's kind of always secret with them, but I think there's leveling out happening for sure. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'd like to end with my own prediction of what perhaps the next 5 to 10 years looks like. I envision a world where Reid's might be throwing on a pen show for Calgary, and that would be wonderful.
Oh my. Okay, thank you for your suggestion.
I'm going to put that right now.
Thank you for your suggestion. That might be something we see. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully in the future.
There you go. Well, thanks so much for your time, Trish. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.